Skin cancer is the most common type of cancer in the United States, with one type, melanoma, being particularly deadly. Like most cancers, early diagnosis can go a long way, and there are ways you can reduce your risk of developing melanoma. East Texas News Weekend's Michael Richardson spoke with a UT health expert who says sun protection and avoidance can stop melanoma before it's too late.
You can actually add up breast, colon, prostate, lung, and they don't equal how many skin cancers that we diagnose each year.
Dr. Marc Usrey is a hematologist with UT Health East Texas. He says a majority of those skin cancer cases are squamous cell and basal cell, but the most deadly type is melanoma, which is caused by burns. He mentions using tanning beds doubles your risk of getting melanoma.
In Brazil and in Australia, they are completely banned. So it's an exposure to ultraviolet light that can be completely eliminated by just staying away from tanning beds.
People who have had melanoma, Usrey says, are at a higher risk of having the cancer form again. He adds sun protection and avoidance are key to prevent melanoma from developing.
People who use sunscreen, SPF 30 or higher, applying that sunscreen every 2 hours can also dramatically decrease the risk of getting both squamous cell and melanoma.
Protecting yourself can start with keeping an eye on your skin. You should see a doctor if you notice a mole has an irregular border, if the color changes, if the mole is bleeding, or if a new mole develops. With immunotherapy, Usrey says once incurable melanomas are now curable. And through sun protection and avoidance, you can reduce your risk for melanoma.
Don't be scared of the sun, just protect yourself from it.
Michael Richardson, East Texas News Weekend.
The American Cancer Society estimates there will be about 112,000 new melanomas diagnosed this year in the U.S., with more cases in men than women.